Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mission Control Houston. This is NASA Television's live coverage of the Expedition 18 crew's launch to the International Space Station. A Russian Soyuz rocket stands ready to launch 1 hour from now at 2:01 a.m. Central Time. That's 1:01 in the afternoon at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in southern Kazakhstan, about 1,200 miles or 2,000 kilometers southeast of Moscow. Aboard are Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke and Expedition 18 Soyuz Commander and Flight Engineer Yury Lonchakov, along with spaceflight participant Richard Garriott. The Soyuz capsule was mated to its booster 3 days ago, and the Soyuz rocket, which stands 162 feet tall and weighs 680,000 pounds, was transported by rail car to the launch pad at dawn Friday. That pad is the same one used 47 years ago to support the launch of Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space, in April 1961. Once launched, Lonchakov as Soyuz commander and Fincke as the onboard Soyuz flight engineer will oversee several orbital correction burns using thrusters on the spacecraft to adjust its altitude relative to that of the International Space Station. After docking and hatch opening, the new crew will learn everything it can about the station from the current crew: Expedition 17 Commander Sergei Volkov, Flight Engineer Oleg Kononenko, and Flight Engineer Greg Chamatov. Volkov and Kononenko have been aboard the station since April. Chamatov joined them in June, arriving aboard shuttle mission STS-124. Chamatov will remain aboard and join Fincke and Lonchakov on Expedition 18 until he is relieved by astronaut Sandy Magnus, who will fly to the station on shuttle mission STS-126, which is targeted to launch in mid-November. Making his second flight into space, NASA astronaut Mike Fincke will become the first American to launch for a second time on a Soyuz vehicle. In 2004, he launched to the station and spent 188 days in space as a member of the 9th resident crew, during which he conducted 4 spacewalks. This will be Russian cosmonaut Yury Lonchakov's 3rd trip to the station and his 2nd trip aboard a Soyuz. His first flew to the International Space Station in 2001 as a member of the STS-100 crew, a mission that delivered the Canadarm2 robotic arm to the station. He next visited the International Space Station in November 2002 as a member of the Soyuz TMA-1 taxi crew, delivering a fresh Soyuz vehicle to the station. This is the first flight for Richard Garriott, an American businessman flying to the station for a 9-day visit as part of a commercial contract with the Russian Federal Space Agency. Garriott also is the son of former NASA astronaut Owen Garriott, a veteran of the Skylab 3 crew in 1973, who set a world record for duration of approximately 60 days, more than double the previous record, and also conducted a spacewalk. The senior Garrett also served as a member of Shuttle Flight STS-9 in 1983, a multidisciplinary and international mission where he operated the world's first amateur radio station from space, which has since expanded to the International Space Station. This will be the first time that two second-generation spaceflyers, Richard Garriott and Expedition 17 Commander Sergei Volkov, son of veteran cosmonaut Alexander Volkov, will greet one another in space. Garriott will return to Earth with Volkov and Kononenko, with landing planned for October 23, U.S. time, on the steppes of Kazakhstan. This mission launches under the call sign Titan, symbolizing the strength of the metal titanium and symbolic of a race of powerful deities called the Titans that ruled during the legendary Golden Age. The talisman over the commander's seat is going to be a white polar bear that was carried aboard Soyuz TMA-13, Lonchakov's previous shuttle flight, given to him by one of his children as a good luck charm. In the last couple of hours, some of the milestones have included activation of systems for health checks of the radio communications, thermal control, and motion control systems. Observing launch preparations at Baikonur is a NASA contingent that includes Public Affairs Officer Rob Navius, who's been at the launch site since Thursday. He filed this report a short time ago.
Kelly here at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A cold front that passed through the area late Friday and all day yesterday yielded blue skies this morning, and everything is in great shape for the launch of the Soyuz TMA-13 a short time from now. On board, Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke, Soyuz Commander and Flight Engineer Yury Lonchakov, and U.S. spaceflight participant Richard Garriott went through the traditional pre-launch activities that you saw earlier today on NASA television. They are strapped in with Fincke in the left seat, Lonchakov in the center seat, and Garriott in the right seat. The rocket is fully fueled. We're about a mile away from the launch pad as we watch the rocket vent its liquid oxygen in preparation for its liftoff a short time from now. Just some high, thin clouds greeting through as they arrived at the launch pad a short time ago, a couple of hours ago, to strap in for this liftoff. Tracking stations stretching all the way from here in Baikonur all the way to the east, almost of Vladivostok, Russia, near the Chinese border, will be tracking the Soyuz TMA-13 as it makes its way through its 9-minute profile to orbital insertion, and then the deployment of its solar arrays and navigation antenna that will set the Soyuz up for a pair of rendezvous maneuvers later in the day today, additional rendezvous burns of its engines tomorrow, en route for a docking on Tuesday to the International Space Station. A huge crowd of VIPs attending today's launch, including members of the Russian Duma, being hosted by Russian Federal Space Agency head Anatoly Perminov. They arrived on a special charter flight this morning here in Baikonur. The Russian delegation headed by Perminov is joined today by NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Operations, Bill Gerstenmaier, by Kirk Shireman, the International Space Station Deputy Program Manager, and the Director of the Johnson Space Center, Mike Coates. Also here, Brent Jett, the Director of Flight Crew Operations, and Deputy Chief Astronaut Sonny Williams, who spent some time earlier today with Mike Fincke in private at the Site 254 integration facility before he suited up along with his crewmates for the trip to the launch pad, climbing up the elevator and taking the ride up to be strapped into the tiny Soyuz capsule for its ride to the International Space Station. So everything is set here. A gorgeous day for a launch. Should be a good show. Now back to you at Mission Control in Houston.
And this is Mission Control Houston, where a team of flight controllers is watching over the activities aboard the International Space Station. This team today, being led by Koichi Alabarujo, the flight director, is watching over the sleep period for the crew on board the International Space Station. They are scheduled to awaken at about 1 a.m. Central Time, as per usual. Just prior to midnight, the flight control team here in Houston did a review of all of the pre-flight preparations necessary for the Soyuz launch and determined that all of the preconditions for that Soyuz launch from a Houston perspective had been accomplished and that they were go for launch here in Houston. With that, we have a prepared video that we can roll for you to show the preparations at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The crew awakened just after 5:30 p.m. yesterday evening Central Time, or about 8.5 hours prior to launch. The crew members then participated in final traditional and required pre-launch activities. Before departing the crew quarters, a long-standing tradition of autographing the doorway from the crew quarters before they exit and head toward the suit-up building, which is building number 254 at Baikonur. Each crew member signs the door, a tradition for astronauts and cosmonauts flying aboard Soyuz spacecraft as they prepare to depart their crew quarters. We've been in those quarters for about a week and a half for final launch preparations. Here's Mike Fincke signing his name to the door. And Soyuz commander and flight engineer for Expedition 18, Yury Lonchakov, signing his signature to the door as well. The crew then departed the crew quarters after receiving a traditional blessing from a priest. Crew departing building number 254 and getting ready to board a bus to travel the short distance between the crew quarters in the cosmonaut building to the suit-up room in the integration building. This occurred just after 7 p.m. Houston time, just after 6 a.m. Baikonur time, about 7 hours prior to launch. Lonchakov being followed by Fincke and Garriott as they board the bus.
Mike, see you there.
Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke giving a thumbs up.
От автобуса отойдите, сейчас автобус поедет.
The crew arrived at Building 254 about 8 p.m. Central Time. Each took final body mass measurements, and then the crew members suited up in their Sokol pressurized spacesuits. Suits also were pressurized to ensure the pressure integrity of the suits before the crew departed for the launch pad. The actual suit-up activities began just after 9:11 this evening Central Time, about 5 hours before launch.
Инсталляции есть, спасибо, нормально.
Я готов.
Хорошо.
I'm wired up and ready.
Да, часы будут. Steve, could you get my watch, please?
Володя, Володя. You only watch it? Ноги вверх, как ты сказал, да?
Ноги наверх.
Да, ноги наверх.
Again, this video was shot about 5 hours prior to launch as the crew members were suiting up in their Sokol spacesuits. Fist bump between the Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke on the right there and Yury Lonchakov on the left, Soyuz Commander for this mission. And Richard Garriott being assisted as he dons his Sokol spacesuit. And all three members of the Soyuz crew about to take a ride up to the International Space Station.
It can be in or out.
The patch on Richard Garriott's suit, paying homage to the fact that he's a second-generation spaceflight explorer. Once the suit-up activities were completed, the pressure suit's pressure holding capabilities were verified. Mike Fincke's wife, Renata, and children watching him suit up from the confines of the viewing room.
Отлично. Не дает. Пускай сидят, расслабляются. Нет, так он начинает думать самоанализом.
Очень красивая baby, да?
Уважаемые гости,
Dear guests,
подготовки к посадке, я хотел вам, как председатель
as chairman of the state board,
работы на пилотируемом корабле,
I would like to report to you that all of the processing on the space vehicle and the launch vehicle are complete.
взлета и
So we wish you a safe takeoff and a safe landing. Thank you.
In addition, the three crew members spoke from behind the glass to various space station managers, VIPs, friends, and family who were gathered prior to the launch.
Wonderful training. You are a true team, and we'll be waiting for you on the ground, and we'll be happy to meet you. Once again, I would like to say that everything that has been done by the workers, the engineers, and those that were involved in processing and the training have assured that everything is nominal. I would like to show you something. You visited me several days ago. I signed you a photo, and I am handing it over right now. I recognize Director General and Designer General of RSC Energia, Vitaly Lopota.
So this shot here is Mike Fincke's daughter, Korolev, who was born while he was on orbit for his first stay aboard the International Space Station.
Have a good time on Space Station. Take care of Space Station and enjoy your time there.
Space Operations Mission Director Chief Bill Gerstenmaier, also having a word with the crew.
Thank you. We'd like to thank you for the support that we have received throughout the training process. Thank you very, very much. I would like to say that the tasks that we have will be achieved. We are ready for flight, and we will see you on the ground after we have completed our program. I am very thankful to Russia for the opportunity to use the same launch pad as Yury Gagarin used when he launched into space. Thank you very much. We're going to work together in space. We'll work together very well. This is going to be the best symbol for the relationship between our countries on the ground. Thank you, friends. Thank you, colleagues. I'm ready. Go. Go, Yury.
Here,
go,
a traditional
Misha.
crew walkout and report to the head of the government commission about 4 hours prior to launch. These activities took place earlier today.
Mr. Chairman, the crew of Soyuz TMA-13 is ready for flight. Commander Yury Lonchakov. Report received, and your go.
The crew boarded the bus just about 11 p.m. Central Time, and the ride to the launch pad took about 20 minutes, with the crew arriving at the pad before 11:30 p.m. this evening Central Time. Owen Garrett walking his son Richard to the bus. The ride to the launch pad took about 20 minutes, and the crew arrived just before 11:30 p.m. this evening Central. Awaiting the crew's arrival, a group of well-wishers to bid the crew farewell on its voyage, and the Soyuz rocket was fueled about 3 hours prior to launch. Crew members said farewell there and boarded the elevator and rode to the top of the Soyuz rocket to board their capsule. They've been aboard the capsule now for about 2 hours.
Break a leg, guys. One more. Richard.
Top of the stairs, Richard Garriott. Below
We
him,
thank
Mike
everyone.
Fincke. And at the bottom, Soyuz commander Yury Lonchakov. We are now 30 minutes to launch and counting. The Soyuz capsule sits high above the 3 stages of the Soyuz booster, which are liquid fueled with kerosene as their propellant. The first stage has 4 liquid engines strapped to the side of the core vehicle, and each will burn for approximately 1 minute 58 seconds before it is jettisoned. The core engine of the first stage also serves as the second stage and continues to burn until about the 4-minute 58-second point. The third stage has a single engine that will burn for about 4 minutes 2 seconds, shutting down at the 9-minute mark of the flight. At this point, the Soyuz will be in an initial orbit of 143 miles at its high point and 118 miles at its low point. That's 230 miles at its apogee and 230 kilometers at apogee and 189 kilometers at perigee. We are now 28 minutes and 30 seconds to launch. The 23.5 foot long Soyuz spacecraft weighs 15,800 pounds and is composed of 3 modules. At the top, the Orbital Module, at the bottom, the Instrumentation Propulsion Module, and sandwiched in between, the Descent Module in which the crew resides. After the spacecraft reaches orbit, its solar array wings are deployed, spanning nearly 35 feet. The entire spacecraft is nestled inside a protective shroud at the top of the rocket. This shroud is jettisoned about 3 minutes after launch. The crew uses the Orbital Module, sometimes known as the Habitational Module, during on-orbit operations, and it includes the docking mechanism, the hatch, and the rendezvous antenna. This portion of the Soyuz separates from the remaining compartments only after the deorbit burn has been completed near the end of the spacecraft's mission. The Descent Module contains personally contoured couches for the crew members during launch, re-entry, and landing. The module contains all controls and displays necessary for critical flight activities. It also contains life support provisions, batteries for re-entry and landing, and the parachutes and landing retrograde rocket engines. The Instrumentation Propulsion Module houses the oxygen storage tanks, attitude control thrusters, avionics, and communications and control equipment. It also contains all avionics equipment used for primary guidance, navigation, control, and computer systems for the entire spacecraft. The propulsion compartment of this module handles all orbital maneuvers, including those needed for rendezvous while the space station and the deorbit burn at the end of the spacecraft's mission. The 2 solar arrays are folded against the body of the Instrumentation Propulsion Module, which separates from the Descent Module after the deorbit burn, just like the Orbital Module. The entire capsule not only serves as a crew transport vehicle to and from the space station, but it also remains docked to the station for 6 months, acting as an emergency return vehicle in the event the crew should have to leave the station unexpectedly. Back now live from the Baikonur Cosmodrome of Kazakhstan. Just under 26 minutes to launch. Atop the Soyuz spacecraft, the Soyuz booster is a small rocket, the launch escape system, that would fire in the event of a problem during launch. The rocket is designed to pull the spacecraft and crew clear to parachute to a safe landing in the event the launch or early stages of the climb to orbit are aborted. We are listening to music that has been piped into the capsule of the Soyuz spacecraft. Again, about 30 minutes ago, an on-orbit timing device was initiated that governs the final major events leading up to liftoff. This type of launch vehicle has been used in various configurations to launch satellites since 1963, and its first use as a crew transport was in 1967. It now stands ready to launch Expedition 18 toward its home for the next 6 months.
The focus of work during the International Space Station's Expedition 18 is on expansion, prepping the station to double the size of its full-time crew. That requires hardware coming up on the shuttles due to visit the station during this increment.
Once we put those pieces together and test them all out, at the end of it all, we should be able to say that we are ready to send 6 people up aboard the space station so we can get even more science done and realize the dream of all of our international partners.
And yet, outfitting the station for an expanded crew is by no means the only thing on the agenda for this team.
If we talk about general objectives, we will receive 2 progress vehicles and 2 shuttles during our increment, so the increment will be busy in terms of servicing activities, in terms of science, and in terms of EVAs.
The first of those shuttles delivers tons of supplies and logistics for the station. Flight engineer Greg Shamatov has been on board since June, getting ready.
I have to make room for all that and get ready to install the racks where they go before they get there. So that's going to be my job, is preparing the space station for installing all that. And then when they come up, we'll all install everything together.
That includes, in the Destiny laboratory, 2 water recovery system racks to process urine and wastewater into potable water, a waste hygiene compartment providing crew members a second toilet, the total organics carbon analyzer to check water quality, and an express rack that houses a new galley. There are also 2 new sleep stations for the Harmony node, plus a new treadmill and new stowage and science racks. Setup of all the new hardware will be a top priority for new flight engineer Sandy Magnus and her crewmates.
The station program is hoping that we'll get some time to do that during the dock time frame so that we can send some initial water samples down on the shuttle, which would be excellent, because the sooner we can get some samples to the ground, the sooner we know where we stand with respect to how the system works.
The crew will work as plumbers, electricians, and computer technicians to install and check out the equipment needed so the station can support a crew of 6, beginning with the arrival of Expedition 20 next spring.
Some assembly is required, and we have to make a lot of plumbing connections because we are putting in an entire new water system. And that water system, of course, is not just connected in and of itself, but the water system is connected to the oxygen generation system, and it's also connected into a toilet. So we're going to be master plumbers, I think, when we're finished.
But there's a lot of other work for this crew, including an Orlan-suited spacewalk by Fincke and Lonchakov just before Christmas.
We will be installing new science hardware. The name of the hardware is Explorer Impulse. It is intended for geophysics studies, for measuring velocity of charged particles.
The plan also calls for the spacewalkers to replace hardware in a biological exposure experiment and install a platform on the outside of Zvezda for future science experiments. The crew members will also take advantage of recently delivered modules to conduct more research inside the station.
It's a whole wide range, and it's what really interesting is during our mission we'll not only have experiments from the United States, but because we now have the Japanese module and the European module, we'll be doing experiments for them as well. So it's the whole gamut of the experiments that you typically see done in space. We've got protein crystal growth.
We're going to be bringing up on STS-126, the ULF-2 mission, 2 new facilities, 2 new racks that are going to really look into how fundamental physics works in space, including how combustion works and how fluids behave without gravity pooling on them all the time.
One of my favorites, I think, is going to be a life science experiment that's geared towards education and observation and just sort of gathering information about how other organisms react to space. They're going to have some butterfly larvae, and they're going to grow, have the butterfly hatch and go through their life cycle to see how they react.
All that, along with the ongoing research into how prolonged exposure to microgravity impacts the crew members themselves. Next year, Expedition 18 will greet shuttle mission STS-119, which delivers the S6 truss and the final set of U.S. solar array wings. It also brings astronaut Koichi Wakata, who takes over from Magnus and becomes the first long-duration station crew member from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. Through the rest of Expedition 18 and into Expedition 19, Wakata will focus on preparing the Kibo complex for new components scheduled to arrive later in the year, starting with the mid-year flight that will return him to Earth.
I will be part of the robotics operation team, and we will use the Canadarm2 to install the exposed facility to the pressurized module of the Kibo. And also, we will be using the JEM, the Japanese robotic arm of the Kibo module, to transfer the payloads from the logistics module to the exposed facility.
By the time Fincke and Lonchakov return to Earth in April, they'll have left the International Space Station in shape to double its permanent crew complement and kick off the next era of its mission of exploration.
Back at the launch site, we are now 19 minutes and 9 seconds and counting from launch. Continuous checks are made of spacecraft systems as the countdown is proceeding on schedule. Liftoff is set for 2:01 a.m. Central Time today. The launch is precisely timed for rendezvous and docking with the International Space Station on Tuesday. At the time of today's launch, the space station will be launching over South America. Again, launch time in Baikonur will be at 1:01 p.m. Central Time. The Soyuz's telemetry systems and steering jets have been activated. During the climb to orbit, tracking and telemetry is downlinked to ground stations along the flight path and is routed to the Mission Control Center in Korolev outside of Moscow. There, Russian Flight Director Yury will oversee a group of flight controllers ready to begin monitoring the Soyuz following its launch and insertion into orbit. A group of Moscow-based U.S. flight controllers, known as the Houston Support Group, is led by Carla Harris and Monty Bushov, and they are joined by veteran NASA astronaut Mike Full. The HSG, as the group is known, interfaces with its Russian counterparts for cohesive real-time operations. Meanwhile, here in Mission Control Houston, a team of about 20 flight controllers is watching over the space station 24/7, 365 in conjunction with its counterparts in Moscow. Overseeing activities here in the space station flight control room is Flight Director Kwatsiali Barujo. And aboard the station, the crew is in the middle of its day. For Volkov and Kononenko, this is their 187th day in space and 185th day aboard the space station, and Chamatov's 120th day in space and 118th day aboard the station. Today is primarily an off-duty day for the crew aboard the space station, with just housekeeping duties, particularly work with the onboard toilet system, some observations photography of the ground and the oceans below in support of several Russian experiments. Routine physical exercise of about 2.5 hours for each crew member each day that helps stave off the potentially detrimental effects of long-duration spaceflight and keep them in good shape to be able to complete all their duties on board. Crew members also participating in some diet monitoring experiments on board as part of continuing looks at how humans live and work in space over long periods. In preparation for this launch, the Expedition 17 crew has been readying the station for its new crew by rehearsing and testing procedures and systems for docking. Space station is now orbiting approximately 225 miles above the southern Pacific Ocean. We are now T-minus 14 minutes and 46 seconds and counting until the launch of the Expedition 18 crew from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. After launch, the next 2 days will be spent watching over the rendezvous of the Soyuz and the space station, leading to the docking scheduled to occur at 3:33 a.m. Central Time Tuesday. That docking will be followed about an hour and a half later by the opening of hatches into the station, which marks the start of a 9-day shift change between the two crews. Countdown is proceeding on schedule, with launch just 14 minutes from now. The crew has been aboard the Soyuz for about 2 hours, conducting final systems checks with Russian launch controllers. The crew of Expedition 18 represents a wealth of experience in long-duration spaceflight. As they were preparing for their mission, they shared insight into their personal histories and motivations for spaceflight.
Are both veterans of missions to this orbiting outpost, and both are eager for a return engagement. For the commander, Air Force Colonel Mike Fincke, trips to space have been on his mind literally as far back as he can remember.
When I was 2 and 3 years old, I remember watching people walk on the moon. And that was enough to inspire me, so that for my entire life, all I wanted to do was to become an astronaut. It's just something that you know. You just see it and you say, that's it. And some people refer to it as a calling, a vocation.
Born in Pittsburgh and raised in the suburb of Emsworth, Fincke is the oldest in a family that grew to 9 children. So he had to work his way through a private high school on scholarship and earned 2 bachelor's degrees in aeronautics and astronautics and in planetary sciences at MIT while on an Air Force ROTC scholarship. In that first summer after college, he attended an exchange program at the Moscow Aviation Institute and met an engineer and future cosmonaut named Fyodor Yurchikhin. After getting a master's in aeronautics and astronautics at Stanford, Fincke began training for another dream job, Air Force fighter pilot.
Well, it turns out after about 6 or 7 months that the Air Force and I both agreed that I wasn't going to be a very good fighter pilot. And I went off to become a very good engineer, working with some of the Air Force's best space programs. And it allowed me to attend the test pilot school, not as a test pilot, but as a flight test engineer. I found my spot in the universe.
He spent 2 years in a variety of flight test programs and was selected as an astronaut in 1996. Fincke was flight engineer on the International Space Station's Expedition 9 in 2004, where he performed 4 spacewalks and served as the board engineer on the Soyuz spacecraft that started and concluded a 6-month mission that fulfilled his childhood dream.
We're expanding our scope as human beings. We're doing something constructive and not destructive, and we're paving the way for future exploration. And I can't think of anything else I'd rather do, anything more exciting.
Fincke's crewmate throughout Expedition 18 is Russian Air Force Colonel Yury Lonchakov. Lonchakov was born in Balkhash in eastern Kazakhstan, the son of traveling geologists. He grew up in Aktyubinsk in northwestern Kazakhstan, where he attended a high school for students with an interest in aviation.
We used flight simulators to learn how to fly airplanes. We jumped with the parachutes. We studied aerodynamics, various flight sciences.
That was when Lonchakov first dreamed of flying in space. His dream was encouraged during a summer trip to the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center.
During summers, the students of that school traveled around the country, and we were taken once to the Star City, and I gave myself a promise that I will one day become a professional astronaut.
After high school, he attended Air Force Pilot School in Orenburg in nearby southern Russia to prepare for a career as a Navy pilot. Lonchakov flew a variety of aircraft while assigned to fleets in the Baltic and Black Seas and the Far East before he was selected to attend the Zhukovsky Air Force Academy. He was selected as a cosmonaut in 1997 and made his first spaceflight in 2001 on the space shuttle mission that delivered Canadarm2 to the International Space Station. He paid another short visit to the station in late 2002 on a Soyuz taxi flight. The next year, he began his tenure as commander of the Cosmonaut Corps at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, managing the preparation of space travelers from around the world.
It's only with the joint efforts of different countries, US, Russia, Canada, Japan, European countries, we will be able to achieve the results in the area of space exploration, which will enable us to advance the progress to the new level.
Fincke and Lonchakov begin this mission with more than 208 days' experience on orbit from their 3 prior spaceflights.
Maybe he's about to take the crew commander place. No, I understand you're a kid, and he is a terrorist.
This is Mission Control Houston, and we are continuing our live coverage of the launch of the 18th expedition crew aboard a Soyuz rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. We now stand 8 minutes and 30 seconds from launch and counting. Engineers continue to monitor all systems aboard the Soyuz rocket and its Soyuz TMA capsule, set to begin its voyage in just about 8 minutes and 23 seconds. The official launch time is 2:01 a.m. Central Time or 1:01 p.m. local in Baikonur. And we are now receiving live in-cabin views from inside the Soyuz spacecraft.
Everything goes as scheduled. We are monitoring everything very closely. So, right after
a short while ago, commands were sent to switch power from ground sources to the Soyuz's onboard batteries. After reaching orbit, the Soyuz command and control system will be activated, and stored computer commands will deploy communications antenna. The first will be the Kurs rendezvous and docking antenna, which will be used to provide automatic range rate information on its final approach to docking with the Zarya module's docking port. Just after reaching orbit, the spacecraft's solar arrays will be deployed to collect power for use by batteries to generate electricity for equipment on board. About 90 minutes into the mission, the crew will oversee the programmed activation sequence as the spacecraft makes its final pass over Russian ground stations.
There we go. That was
Systems activation includes the module's power supply system, its radio communications system, and its critical motion control system. Tomorrow, the motion control system will establish a stable orientation for the Soyuz as it continues its 2-day chase to rendezvous with the space station.
And what's most important?
Again, these are live in-cabin views inside the Soyuz spacecraft as the crew prepares for launch in just 6 minutes and 46 seconds.
I believe he dreams about it. Yeah, I'm sure.
Commander Yury Lonchakov on the left for the Soyuz, and Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke in the upper right-hand corner of your screen here.
Remember how they've been working on that Firebolt.
On the launch pad at Baikonur, the countdown is proceeding on schedule. Counting down from 6 minutes 20 seconds now. At this point in the countdown, the Soyuz's first stage steering jets are in the ready-to-launch position, and ground commands have been received from the rocket, indicating that all control and auxiliary systems are ready for launch.
Telemetry recording 1. Copy, telemetry recording 1. Purge.
T-minus 5 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. Launch control reports that the range at Baikonur is clear, and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. T-minus 5 minutes and counting. Onboard systems switch to onboard control. Soyuz Commander Yury Lonchakov's controls have been activated. Crew members will be closing their helmets, putting them on suit oxygen. A launch key is meanwhile being inserted in the launch bunker. We are ready to launch. T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds. T-minus 4 minutes and counting. Ready for a launch of the Expedition 18 crew from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. T-minus 3 minutes 30 seconds. Nitrogen purge of the engine combustion chambers underway. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. T-minus 2 minutes 30 seconds. The booster tank is being pressurized for flight. T-minus 2 minutes and counting. All systems still go for launch. T-minus 1 minute 30 seconds. T-minus 1 minute and counting. The Soyuz is now on internal power. Automatic launch sequencer is on. The first umbilical tower is separating from the booster.
Moscow. Soyuz.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Start.
T-minus 15 seconds. The second umbilical tower moves away from the Soyuz.
Preliminary. Preliminary.
T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Intermediate. Prime and liftoff.
First stage engines should be at flight speed now. liftoff. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket transporting Mike Fincke, Yury Lonchakov, and Richard Garriott to their home in space.
20 seconds. Engine of stage 1, stages 1 and 2, operate nominally.
Engines 1 and 2 operating nominally.
Launch structural parameters are nominal. Copy.
Good roll and pitch program according to flight controllers. Soyuz is heading toward a link-up with the International Space Station 2 days from now. Good first stage performance, the Soyuz delivering 102 pounds of thrust from its 4 boosters and single engine. First stage of the Soyuz is 68 feet in length, 24 feet in diameter as it burns for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of flight.
60 seconds. Pitch your roll nominal. Copy. 70.
1 minute into the flight of the Soyuz, everything nominal. Velocity is 1,100 miles an hour or 500 meters per second.
80 seconds. Nominal flight. $90 seconds. Nominal flight. Engines of stages 1 and 2 operate nominally and stable. $110 seconds. Nominal flight.
1 minute and 58 seconds. Jettison of the 4 strap-on boosters. These have been completing their job and have dropped away at an altitude of 28 statute miles. The Soyuz is traveling at about 3,350 miles an hour or 1,500 meters a second at 2 minutes.
Not 150 seconds. Stage 2 engines are nominal. Off.
2 minutes into the flight of the Soyuz, all systems nominal.
160 seconds.
Escape tower and launch shroud jettison.
Fairing jettison. Copy.
Receiving live in-cabin views of the crew aboard the Soyuz as they rocket into orbit.
And 80 seconds. Stabilization nominal. Copy.
The Soyuz second stage is performing as advertised. The second stage of the Soyuz is 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter, with a single engine providing 96 tons of thrust for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation.
$220 seconds. Flight nominal. Copy. $240 seconds. Stage 2 engines are nominal. Copy. $250 seconds.
Visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control. Flight's 4 minutes into the flight and all systems working well.
Nominal. Copy. $270 seconds. Flight nominal. Copy. Okay. Start of stage 3.
5 minutes into the flight of the Soyuz, the core booster is burned out and is separating at an altitude of 105 miles or 170 kilometers, and the third stage will begin ignition.
Yury, this is Permanov. How do you feel? Wonderful. How are your crewmates to your left and to your right? They are absolutely great guys. They are real space explorers. And when did you feel the most loads? Right now or at the very beginning? No, right now we pretty much do not feel any extreme loads. It was only the beginning. What was the maximum GX load? Oh, well, I would say about 3.5. 3.5? Yes. Close, anyway, between 3.5 and 4. So is that just how you felt it, right? Do you have any instrument that would show you the actual load? Okay. All right, guys. That was all the time I had. Somebody's taking the microphone from me. Thank you, Anatoly Nikolaevich. 380 seconds. Stage 3 engines are nominal. Copy.
Second stage separation. The 4 liquid-fueled engines have completed their task for today, dropping away at 4 minutes of powered flight remaining. Soyuz is being propelled by the single engine of the Soyuz's third stage. Engine is providing 30 tons of thrust and will burn for 4 minutes and 2 seconds.
Copy, thank you. And 20 seconds. Pitch your roll nominal. Copy.
Two minutes remaining before the spacecraft achieves orbit.
440. Vehicle stabilization is nominal. Copy.
Now 7 minutes and 30 seconds into the flight of Soyuz and the Expedition 18 crew. The velocity of spacecraft now almost 13,500 miles an hour.
Launch structural parameters are nominal. Copy.
Once the third stage delivers the Soyuz to orbit and the module is separated, a series of pre-programmed commands will be executed to prepare it for orbital operations. These stored commands, called time tag commands, allow many of the Soyuz's systems to be automatically activated by onboard computers at precise times stored in those computers.
490 vehicle stabilization is nominal. Copy. 500 seconds. Nominal flight. Copy.
Eight minutes and 30 seconds into the flight, continuing to receive live in-cabin views of Commander Sergei Lonchakov on the left and Flight Engineer Mike Fincke on the right.
Okay, we see the separation contact, and we see...
Mission Control Moscow confirms third stage cutoff and separation. The single liquid-fueled engine has now shut down and has dropped away at an altitude of about 125 statute miles. Third stage is now performing an avoidance maneuver by opening an outgassing valve in the liquid oxygen tank.
Okay. We're given the control to MCC Moscow. Thank you. Thank you.
We have confirmed spacecraft separation. Soyuz capsule and crew inside are now safely in orbit. Spacecraft is automatically beginning to initiate its pre-programmed commanding for antenna and solar arrays to deploy. Visiting vehicle officer confirms that all deployments are complete. The Soyuz's third stage steering jets are now firing to separate the booster from the capsule, and the Soyuz is orbiting at an altitude of about 143 by 118 miles. That orbit will be raised systematically over the course of the next 2 days, placing it in close proximity to the International Space Station for final rendezvous and docking set for 3:33 a.m. Central Time Tuesday. Control of the spacecraft from here on will be overseen from the control facility in Korolev. And here's a view of the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolev outside of Moscow, where flight controllers are carefully monitoring the flight of the Soyuz and the Expedition 18 crew destined for the International Space Station. Today's launch went on time at 2:01 a.m. Central Time. Today and tomorrow, the engines will be fired 3 additional times to further raise the Soyuz orbit to that of the space station.
Titan Moscow. Moscow Titans, go ahead. Yes. How was the separation? Was everything okay? The separation contact was nominal. Everything's fine. The crew feels fine. Okay, give me the information on the first measurement. We're ready to copy. Pressure in SA 589 and BO 811 and 861. Parameter number 18 1506. Second 1784 19. First digit eligible 21.6. 21st 0.8. 22. 327. 23. 320. 24. 17.3. 25. 17.5. 26.267. How copy? We copy, thank you. Yes, we send ODR and we close their PV. Okay, copy. Did you say, what is the exact time of measurement? What time are you asking about? When did you do the first measurement? 5 minutes ago. Copy.
Ребят, вы нас слышите?
Guys, do you copy us?
This is Mission Control Houston. We're continuing to receive live downlink television views from the Soyuz spacecraft as it continues its nominal climb into orbit.
Congratulations on the successful launch. About time to start working. We have no issues with the telemetry. Your vehicle is fine. The launch went nominally. So, as we talked to you many times about it, we can just proceed with nominal work. Yes, thank you, Vladimir Alexeyevich. Titans, Mission Moscow, go ahead. Yury, I understand that 5 minutes have passed, and it's time to take the next measurement in SA, or you probably did that, so we are ready to copy the data. Pressure NASA 789. 789. Okay. Did you monitor the DS?
Now 15 minutes and 30 seconds into the flight of the Soyuz, carrying Expedition 18 Commander Mike Fincke in the upper right-hand portion of your screen. Soyuz Commander Yury Lonchakov in the center of your screen, and to his right, spaceflight participant Richard Garriott.
Titans, boss.
All systems aboard the Soyuz spacecraft functioning normally.
Did you check the KSP lights? Yes, we have. No issue.
As it orbits 200 and...
Please make a note for yourself. 10.
Its destination, the International Space Station, currently orbiting 225 miles over the western coast of Africa.
Failed then at 10:31:02. Program 1 will deactivate television. Copy. 10:20:30. If that command to deactivate TV fails, then the program 1 will do it at 10:31:02. Affirmative. Titans, Moscow. Go ahead. I will give you the data. Please compare it with yours and let me know if there will be any discrepancies. Are you ready? Yes. I didn't copy you. Stand by 1. Standing by.
We've now lost the in-cabin views from aboard the Soyuz spacecraft as it climbs into orbit. 2 days from now, a link-up in space will take place high above Russia within ground tracking stations. That docking, again set for 3:33 a.m. Central Time, will continue the seamless transition of one crew to the next. 11 days from now, handover completed. Expedition 17 minus Greg Chamatov, but with Garriott, will board the Soyuz currently docked at the station and return home after 6 months in space, and leave Expedition 18, including Chamatov, to oversee the ongoing research and operation of the space station. During its increment, Expedition 18 will oversee a significant expansion of habitability of the station. The STS-126 Utilization Flight 2 mission, scheduled for mid-November, will bring along with Sandy Magnus, Chamatov's replacement, new environmental systems to support the expansion of the station to 6 crew members next year, and a new advanced resistive exercise device. Later this year, Fincke and Lonchakov will venture out on a spacewalk to install a navigation antenna on Zvezda for next year's docking of the Mini Research Module 2 and scientific equipment on the hull of Zvezda. 2 Russian Progress resupply craft are scheduled to also visit the station during the course of Expedition 18. The crew will see the arrival of another partial crew rotation, with Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata replacing Sandy Magnus early next year. Wakata will launch on the STS-119 mission that will deliver the final set of solar arrays to the International Space Station. The next crew, Expedition 19, launches to the station in late March.
mission.
This will conclude our live coverage of the launch of the Expedition 18 crew. We'll move now into video replays of the launch coming up next on NASA TV. Launch day highlights and interviews with NASA managers at the launch site will air in a video file no later than 5 a.m. Central Time today. And docking coverage on NASA TV will begin at 3 a.m. Central Time Tuesday from Mission Control Moscow. This is Mission Control Houston.
Yes, we have less than 1 minute.